Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me commend Honorable Walter Owino for raising that issue. Because, Honorable Speaker, it is indeed true.
Jared Okello.
Jared Okello, for the member for Nyando. And you know, Honorable Speaker, Nyando is a constituency very close to my heart because their former member of parliament, Fred Outa, was a very good friend of mine, and I have had occasion to visit Nyando constituency with the Honorable Outa a number of times. It's only that the current member has not invited me for fear of the unknown. But Honorable Speaker, he has raised a very important issue on the security of members. And it is indeed true, Honorable Speaker, that as the chair of the Parliamentary Service Commission and the Commission, you have a responsibility in ensuring that all our members of Parliament are secure, especially when they are carrying on their work as members of Parliament. Honorable Speaker, sometime in the last Parliament, in the 12th Parliament, I was among the first victims of security withdrawal by the handshake regime. And I remember then a number of our friends who were supporting the handshake regime, especially those within ODM, celebrated the withdrawal of my security and that of other members who they then, in a very derogatory manner, referred to us as Tanga-Tanga. And they told us, you cannot be given security to Tanga-Tanga with. But Honorable Speaker, I will not fall into that category of celebrating the apparent withdrawal of security officers to members of Parliament. However, Honorable Speaker, we must also responsibly use, Honorable Speaker, if you can protect me from the Honorable Babu Owino
and the team around you.
And the party leader, Jubilee.
Yes.
Honorable Speaker, I was saying I want to avoid the route taken by my colleagues in ODM to celebrate the withdrawal of security. But I was also saying, as much as Honorable Speaker, we are entitled to security. And I remember that time they told us that you are secure. You don't need policemen. The police have ensured that everybody within the country is secure. Okay. And we stayed for almost 4 years without security, Honorable Speaker, because of our political persuasion. And I would never support the withdrawal of a member of Parliament security on account of his political persuasion. However, Honorable Speaker, we must also, as members of Parliament who enjoy that rare privilege, that when most of our constituents are being terrorized by thugs and there is rampant insecurity around the country, we enjoy that rare privilege of having armed officers with us almost on a 24-hour basis. And Honorable Speaker, it is a rare privilege, and therefore it must not be taken away by anybody. However, Mr. Speaker, we also have a duty and obligation to make sure that we do not in any way or manner misuse those security officers. And Honorable Speaker, there have been occasions where members of Parliament, and I'm aware, Honorable Speaker, there is already a member of Parliament whose security officer was disarmed on account of misuse of the firearm. And Honorable Speaker, our officers are charged with the responsibility of protecting us to be able to execute our duties as members of Parliament without fear or without being intimidated by anybody in the streets. But our officers are not given to us, Honorable Speaker, to protect us in violent demonstrations and protests. I think, Honorable Speaker, when I listened to the Cabinet Secretary of the Interior on Monday, he did direct officers to ensure that there is law and order in Nairobi and in other urban centers where we had been threatened with a violent protest, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, when the Cabinet Secretary and the Inspector General of Police, on account of the Public Order Act, says that you have not conformed to the law, you have not informed the police on where you want to picket, what roads you want to use, what times, and he says the police and directs the police as the Inspector General of Police to ensure that there are no violent demonstrations and protests, then we want to use our officers who are armed to face off with the other armed officers. Honorable Speaker, we are calling for anarchy in the country. And as much, Honorable Speaker, as I said, I would not celebrate the withdrawal of security on any member, not even Honorable Nyikal or the Honorable John Mbadi, or even Babu Owino, who even has a record of misuse of firearms himself, and is still guarded by an armed officer. Honorable Speaker, I will never, and I shall never stand to support the withdrawal of their security. But we must act responsibly as leaders.
John Mbadi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
You have 1 minute.
Just a minute.
Yes.
Let me then choose what to say.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to put emphasis that where an act of parliament confers a benefit, privilege, or whatever it is to an office, that must be respected. And Mr. Speaker, I was telling Honorable Ichungwa that this law that confers the privilege of security to former Prime Minister, Deputy President, is a bill that I personally sponsored in this House. And I was telling him I cannot allow that and sit in this House and see the law that I brought, that anybody urinating on law that I brought to this House. Mr. Speaker, that is something that is unacceptable, and this is something that the government must respect. But finally, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Ichungwa is saying that they were the first to experience withdrawal of their security as Tanga. That is misrepresenting facts. I will tell you that you cheered when our security were withdrawn, together with the present Speaker, when he was minority leader in the Senate. I was minority leader in the National Assembly. Our security were withdrawn, not just security alone. Even our GK vehicles, which belong to Parliamentary Service Commission, were taken. One of them was taken in this roundabout, Mr. Speaker. Another one was picked from my house. Mr. Speaker, this misuse of power must stop. This misuse of power should stop in this country. Let us not entertain misuse of power. Whether it was applied to Tanga, it was applied to NASA, it is being applied to Azimio, it is wrong and it should stop. This idea of some police officer sitting somewhere and looking at us attending press conferences, and then the next thing you find your security withdrawn, like they did to mine on Monday evening, just because I attended Azimio press conference. Since when did I move out of Azimio, Mr. Speaker, that I'm now being barred from attending Azimio meetings? Mr. Speaker, it is irresponsible. And Mr. Speaker, we need also to tell majority leader to realize that much as you'd hate Uhuru Kenyatta, he has been president of this country for 10 years. Mr. Speaker, it is irresponsible for majority leader who leads the government in parliament, in the National Assembly, to continuously talk derogatively about a former president. Mr. Speaker, that is something that we should not accept as a country. You cannot say that a former president has led goons. No, that is irresponsible. You can't talk like that. No.
Order.
I mean,
Order, honorable members.